Did you have a pre-episode banter topic, or are you are you listening to yourself record, or what's going on? Harry, are you still there? Did I lose you? Fuck, I'm all alone. So far away.
Okay, I don't know why I was muted for a second there.
Please don't bleed out in my hands. Welcome to Brokusatsu, Two Brothers' exploration of tokusatsu shows and related media. I am Sam.
And I'm Harry. And, Sam, this is the part of the show where you apologize for making me watch the Decade movie.
Never.
Yeah, especially because we have now decided to, I guess this will probably happen on your podcast feed. We're gonna do a commentary track.
Yeah, we're gonna do this one live, because I didn't want to watch it in advance, so I'm just going to press record and just watch it and see how it goes.
You fucker. I watched it on my own. I watched it in the dark.
Isn't that how the podcast is supposed to be? Me going into something completely blind, whereas you have all the answers and the knowledge and can guide me like a young, vulnerable child through tokusatsu properties.
My guidance was telling you to not watch this part of the movie. You were the one who insisted.
Well, sometimes children need to burn their hands on stoves, right?
Oh, God. We've all watched the first half of Kamen Rider Wizard before we realize that we need to stop watching Wizard.
Well, I have not. But now that you've said that, I'm going to make you rewatch the first half of Kamen Rider Wizard at some point.
I would sooner die!
So, audience, next up after Kamen Rider W is Kamen Rider Wizard.
No. We are doing a very different Kamen Rider after this. Probably Ryuki, I think. Which, in its own way, is also kind of a punishment, but it's like an interesting punishment.
Great, okay. I will have the context for that in, what is it, like 20 weeks? How far along are we?
Well, we're doing episodes 13 and 14 of Kamen Rider Double today.
Out of 50?
Out of 49 episodes.
Wait, 49? They didn't do a full 50?
No.
Wait, does the movie count as an episode?
The movie, it's kind of an episode. I mean, really, it'd be like a two-parter. Basically, the finale, I think they were going for 48, but they had enough plot that they had one last episode on the end.
Oh, okay.
49 eps. There's the Kamen Rider A to Z Guy Memories of Fate movie. That is just, that's between, I think, like episodes 42 and 43. We'll watch it at the proper time. Then after the series, there are two more movies that we may wait a bit to cover. But there is a Kamen Rider Excel movie and a Kamen Rider Eternal movie.
Isn't Eternal the one where all the Kamen Riders, like, come together and fight?
They do lots of those crossover movies, and also that's kind of the Kamen Rider Decade, the movie you didn't watch. And also, no, not that one.
Okay. Assume 48, so we just did 14. 14 minus 48 is 34 divided by 2. So we have 17 more weeks, plus or minus a couple movies in there.
God, I could hear like gears grinding when you start doing the math.
Hey, 17 weeks, not bad. That'll take us, what, will that take us into January?
Yeah, that'll get us into next year.
Excellent. Into the fresh hellscape of 2019.
And we're also going to be adding content. The precise nature of that content we'll have a discussion for at the end of this episode.
Yay!
But for now, let us go to our beautiful beginning, where we started, Kamen Rider Double, episode 13, Q on the radio, Princess Under Fire.
The episode starts with Princess Wakana being accosted in a parking lot by a stalker/fan who demands that she marry him.
Yeah, well, it's a stalker/fan/superpowered drug dealer because he is a member of their secret organization.
Wait, he was a member of their organization?
Yeah, I think he specifically mentioned he, like your sister. I'm way better than that guy who married your sister.
Well, I thought that because they're such a rich family, that's like common knowledge. That's like if someone was talking shit about Kanye to like Kylie Jenner.
Well, also he used the masquerade memory. Masquerade memory is basically the Mook memory of the series. Like you'll see a bunch of just nameless dudes using it in the movie that we'll watch tomorrow. I guess it's a form that has almost. It's literally weaker than money power. Yeah, that it breaks through that baseline. It The only good thing about it is that you can kind of use it easily. You don't need the special ports, and it doesn't have side effects. But it barely gives you any power, and also you have a tendency to just vaporize when you get beaten in a battle, as happens in a couple seconds when Wakanda teaches this shitbag that no means no.
Yeah, like for all the gender politics that the show's been getting wrong over the past few episodes, it was a nice, pleasant change to see a woman who was being assaulted by a toxic masculine man, and she just murdered him.
And just real quickly, we went past it, but I gotta say, during the previously on flashback, they literally have Shotaro saying, "I'm not gonna just let him die," at the exact moment when they showed the footage of Cross dying.
I kind of skipped through that.
But then, yeah, Healing Princess Radio.
Yay! Yes, we flash to Wakana on the radio, totally unfazed by the fact that she just murdered a guy, which kind of leads me to the obvious question: how many stalkers has she just iced over the years?
She's a radio professional. Like, we see her kind of muting her audio when she is making, like, clucking noises in a couple seconds. She knows how to work it.
But this is definitely not her first stalker. Like, her manager and some of her friends mentioned, like, multiple stalkers she's had to deal with in the past. How many bodies are behind this woman?
None, because she fucking vaporizes them.
Okay, that's fair.
That's the right answer.
But yes, Wakana puts on one of her songs, and Philip and Shotaro are dancing along, and they know all the choreography, which opens a whole lot of other questions. Like, is she a full-on pop idol? Like, does she have music videos?
I feel like in Asian countries, when you achieve a certain level of fame, you just automatically put out an album with a couple songs.
Like, you just been elected prime minister. Here's your recording contract.
Yeah, you'll have a single out there that won't top the charts, but it'll get you out there. And I gotta say, this reminded me a lot of the kind of stuff you and me do, where there's a couple people singing out loud to a music on the radio or something, while someone else in the room looks on in horror, as Akiko is doing.
Mm-hmm. We are, of course, the people singing, not the people looking on in horror, for we have no shame.
Philip is just super confused why he's so interested in this beautiful woman, because there's no logical reason why that would happen for Philip.
Yeah, he has some very confused emotions this episode. Like, by the end of it, like, he's starting to get the feeling that Wakana is something more than just a pop idol to him, that they might have some kind of biological connection. But at the beginning of the episode, it really felt like he was crushing on his secret sister.
bit of Star Wars stuff happening. But for now, Wakana is dealing with a entirely different kind of bad attention, where she gets a kind of garbled, electronically voice calling in. It asks her, like, a question, oh, what's your favorite number? And she says, 7. It says, great, I'll show you a big ol' 7. And then outside the window, some buildings are knocked down to form a giant 7.
Oh, wasn't it like a windmill? Like a clean power windmill? Because this town is just nothing but clean energy.
Yeah, it was one of the ubiquitous wind turbines.
Many people die, and the public immediately turns on Princess Wakana. And to the show's credit, they do point out that it is unfair that a female celebrity is being criticized by the public for the reaction of, some of her male fans. Like, this episode, Princess Wakana, she is kind of a genocidal monster, but there is a lot of really positive female empowerment messages this episode.
Tokusatsu is not a genre that you often get positive female messages in, so I guess we'll take this one when it's here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like another colleague of hers, another female broadcaster, like, kind of breaks Wakana out of the throngs of the paparazzi by saying, hey, I also got a call. You can come to talk to me about it.
Yes, this woman is obviously the villain of the episode, though we won't find that out for another 40 minutes.
But the other villain of the episode, Shitaro, breaks through the cordon, introduces himself to Wakanda, and kind of goes in for a kiss.
Yeah.
That Wakanda slams his face into a car door and runs away.
Yes, we flash to the evil family dinner where there is a very awkward fight between Wakanda and Psycho.
Psycho is just talking lots of shit, saying, maybe you should stop doing that radio stuff. Wakanda's like, don't tell me what to do, and transforms, and there's a bit of a brief battle where Psycho is bouncing Wakanda against the wall with her crazy superpower artillery. Kirihiko's a little worried about this because it seems a bit of an escalation, but he's told, don't worry, it won't kill her. In a bit of foreshadowing.
The waitstaff doesn't blink an eye. This is not the first time that monsters have appeared at the table and tried to kill everyone.
They have a see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil policy.
But, I mean, even in that policy, you gotta imagine the first time they see it, they would at least duck.
Wakanda leaves the scene basically learning that she has to deal with this on her own or else her dad is going to make her quit her job. And she really likes this job.
By the way, I just feel the need to point out again, this is the evil family that is creating all the Gaia memories, that is distributing them around town. How many times has it bit them in the ass that they have not tracked who they have sold these to?
They did track it. It literally comes up in the next episode that Kirihiko gets bored and decides to look it up when it becomes available to the viewer. At this point, the reason they don't look it up is because Wakanda doesn't have that info and she has to solve it on her own, and the others don't want her to solve it yet. So,
They're just fine. They're just fine with their daughter having to deal with a murderous stalker. Which, I mean, is kind of fine. She's totally safe. One of the fun ironies of the episode.
She's the safest ever, as we'll get into in a bit. So the cops are there. They're going to run a trace. And, as everybody knows, you got to keep them on the phone as long as possible. Even though that's not how it works with cell phones anymore. I'm pretty sure that they can kind of automatically tell where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to do stuff. I don't know. We've all seen The Wire, but you got to take out the battery, swap cell phones. It's all complicated.
Philip is there. He barges into the phone booth when Q calls back with a question, and he kind of puts Philip on the line as well, using his toy cell phone. And this is the first time that Wakanda and Philip kind of talk to each other, and they are immediately intrigued by each other.
His cell phone that turns into a flying beetle.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Philip is able to recognize the kind of the nature of the questions the evil caller is putting to Wakanda. And he says, hey, you're doing all wrong. You gotta tie the other two questions too, don't you? Because he's recognized that all these questions are from kind of a magazine interview that she did a little bit ago. Because Philip is a huge super fan.
Yes, Wakanda very rightfully points out that Philip is much more qualified than the police in this town. Though, to be fair, Shitaro is also more qualified than the police in this town, so it's a very low bar.
But yeah, there's a fight that we might have skipped. But, Shitaro shows up, and because he's about to blow up an amusement park with a big gas line that's running under it. Another great safety decision in Futua City.
And the bad guy totally does it, too. Does he blow up the roller coaster, or just kind of, set a lot of fires around it and make it all pretty?
He just makes it a way more interesting roller coaster, because there's giant flames going everywhere.
Coming soon to Six Flags.
Yeah, he's a huge, meaty monster, and Shotaro's initial hits don't do anything, so he has to start shooting him. Then the Dopant uses his getting over it with Bennett Foddy powers and bounces away.
Yes, he turns into a CGI Geodude and just bounces the fuck off.
With the success that Shotaro had, with the success that Philip had, really, in predicting stuff, they are now part of the radio show, because Wakanda's gonna have them, solve this goddamn problem. And they kind of go around doing callbacks to previous episodes and other people that the Shotaro helped, which is kind of a nice way to show that, hey, they're actually having a positive influence on the city, and, the people that they're helping, they're actually, going on to have good lives. It's a nice little touch.
Yeah, I really dug, these callbacks. So, there's a callback to the family from the casino episode, where they serve, dessert buns?
Dumplings.
They serve dumplings. Then a little later on, there's a callback to the pastry chef from a few episodes ago, as she has set up a new shop in the town.
But every time, Question calls and he's giving, different threats to Wakanda and give her different gifts, which are usually in the form of going out and wrecking stuff. And eventually, at some point, when, Kamen Rider Double is fighting him off, Wakanda herself, in Clay Doll mode, shows up and decides that she's gonna kill this guy with her own bare hands.
Yes, I have a note here that the call is coming from inside the cast list, because at this point, Philip points out that the questions and the answers that that question is giving to her were not from any magazines or any public interviews, so they must be coming from someone who spoke with her personally.
And some of the mystery is removed when the moment Philip says this, the manager guy who had run away earlier because he said he had ulcer or something, she goes back up and says, "Hey, I heard you were having some trouble. I hope you're fine. Oh, good. Hey, Wakanda." During the fight, Clay Doll gets fucking shattered.
Mm-hmm.
Which Kirihiko, who kind of been watching it, is, way, because he is not at all stalking Kamen Rider Double. He doesn't like him that way, Baka. He's just like, oh shit, my boss's daughter just got murdered from me, I'm in trouble. After a couple seconds, Clay Doll just reforms, and Wakanda entirely no-sells it, saying, dang it, he got lucky. So we see here that Clay Doll's main ability is that it's basically immortal. She could take any amount of damage and she'll just reform.
A very T-1000 effect, and yeah, it only takes a couple seconds and a week-long episode break. During the fight, Kamen Rider and the Clay memory, they kind of mix it up a little bit, and there's some physical contact between the Clay Doll and Philip's half of the Kamen Rider, and both of them kind of have some memory flashbacks at this point. Like, we get to see baby Philip interacting with baby Wakana.
We don't know that's baby Philip. We don't know who it is.
Yeah, we totally don't know. Yeah, it's not totally obvious.
I'll say this: that person is not named Philip.
Okay.
That's going to be confusing up until you watch the movie tomorrow and you know more about Philip.
And his actual real name, which is probably Mac. Did they name the cat after him?
So after kind of the weird moment during one of the off bits, Philip and Wakana, and they're not meeting face to face. They're kind of talking through the doorway because Philip is ostensibly hiding from people outside of the agency, unless they know a sweet dance move. But
Yes.
the evil museum organization is hunting him down, so he has to meet as few people as possible. So he has to talk to her not face to face. But he kind of asks Wakanda, like, "Hey, so we think it's someone close to you. Has anyone ever tried to kill you?" And Wakanda's like, "Yeah, my sister's tried to kill me. I kind of honestly grew up in a really shitty family. Everyone I know is evil. The only person around me who was ever nice to me was my little brother, Raito, who has gone missing."
And who kept saying such nice things to me that you have said repeatedly to me in this very episode.
She was my word conscience, kind of like you're becoming, for some reason. Wakanda goes back, and the other broadcaster showed up to kind of try to finish the segment when Wakanda was occupied, but she steps back out very graciously. And Wakanda is now dealing with sweet ramen. Sad,
Yes.
do you remember the sweet ramen Sarah made?
No. Is it something that I blocked from my mind?
Well, it was part of that. She did that whole forum thread of weird Cadbury cream egg recipes.
Oh, yeah. I didn't realize that she did sweet ramen as a part of that.
No, that was a fucking trip. I had to look up the thread, and she did lots of stuff. She did deviled Cadbury eggs, egg
deviled
salad
Cadbury
sandwich.
Yeah, she did chef salad, or like a garden salad with Cadbury eggs cut up in there, yeah.
Huevos rancheros, which broke the microwave.
She did a pickled Cadbury egg by taking some Red Bull, putting it in a jar, and just dunking in a couple of Cadbury eggs. That was my suggestion.
And I fucking ate that, which was my suggestion. It was disappointingly normal.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, back to Kamen Rider Double.
Yes. So Wakanda shows up. She speaks with the creepy Watcherman, who is eating the creepier sweet ramen, and they receive another phone call. And she says, "Hello," and then she says her manager's name, which of course I have forgotten because I'm name blind.
It was A something. Aoi. It was A and then 3 letters.
Yeah. I want to say Aki, but I'm probably just mixing up Akiko.
I could look it up, but then again, do I really need to? Because they're about to fight, and it doesn't super matter.
Yeah, it totally doesn't matter.
So yeah, he transforms into the Violence Dopant, which is a pretty cool Dopant.
Mm-hmm. And Kamen Rider also transforms, and they start throwing down in a collateral damage filled chase around town. Oh, Princess Wakana is kidnapped at this point.
Yeah, she's part of the Bennett Foddy bouncing weird ball thing. The water bike actually gets used again. I was wrong.
Hey, they got to show the toys a couple times.
And the Violet. So when the Violet Stopon starts losing, he starts talking about, oh, I was manipulated by her. This is all her fault. I genuinely like you, Wakana, but she messed with my emotions. And Wakana's like, oh, so that's how you got the guy memory. But who was it? And Kamen Rider Double's like, why does this radio host know so much about guy memory distribution and stuff like that? And is way too casual about this whole situation.
Yes, Wakana is very good at making herself seem slightly afraid and inconvenienced by all the violence going on around here, when she is in fact the safest person in the entire cast at this particular moment.
But no, he doesn't say the name. But there's a fight. He beats him. Yay.
I like how we just completely skip over the fights, because what are you gonna do?
Yeah,
It's a CGI fight.
where we're gonna say, like, so Kamen Rider Double, he starts, he swings his thing and the guy ducks under it, but then he does a spinning kick and then he shoots his gun. Yay! Oh, he's transforming.
Mm-hmm.
We say that, but that's exactly what we're gonna do tomorrow when we record the commentary track, though.
Oh, I'm just assuming it's going to be just like an hour and a half of me just whining and complaining into the mic, like, what is happening? What is going on with Decade? Of course, the other option is that I will fall in love with Decade and demand that we start from the beginning.
It's just gonna be 90 minutes of you saying, what? Who's this character? And me making, like, explosion noises with my mouth.
I will say, there is, so my favorite point in the fight is when the CGI Geodude is bouncing around, just knocking down buildings, and he jumps into a river and just one-shot takes out a CGI tugboat in some of the most amazing, just crappy, or like late 90s TV CGI that I could probably do in MS Paint.
It is what it is. Like Tokusatsu, it's the whole part of theater where it's not real, but you just follow the action. You gotta ignore the stagehands. They're not actually there.
But it's just kind of, it's beautiful, and it's full of motion. It's just full of life, even if visually it's kind of a piece of shit. But
there's just no pretension here. That's one of the things I like about Toku.
I do have another minor complaint about this fight. So the monster, the Geodude, he is bouncing on a river, and as we all know, Geodudes are weak to water. So I do not think that was a great choice for the monster this week.
Oh, that's probably why he's beaten so quick after that. Wakana, off on her own plotline, confronts the other broadcaster lady, who was another character in this episode, who was basically causing all this trouble to try to get Wakana off the air and take her airtime, because Wakanda is just popular enough that she's shoving everybody out, intentionally or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wakanda then, pulls out her Claydol memory and is about to ice her when she remembers the words of her brother, that this isn't really her. She's a really nice person. So she, in kind of a big character move, just untransforms and walks out the room.
Yes, it is a big character move that she does not murder someone.
Well, I mean, she's part of a supervillain family, and you did see her, totally ice somebody at the start of the episode. It's a bit of an arc.
Well, the guy at the start of the episode kind of deserved it. Like, if more toxic males were just iced randomly, the world would be a better place.
I mean, I agree. Anyway. So the other broadcaster lady is like, well, my biggest rival is an evil supervillain. I could probably smear a bit with this. But Kirihiko walks in, says, the Sonosaki family, any stuff that happens to them, I'm not gonna allow that to happen. And she is turbo murdered.
Yep. And that's pretty much the end of the episode. We do have a stinger where Wakana and Philip are talking on the phone. Earlier in the episode, Wakana had made the suggestion that after the case, Philip and her finally meet face to face and not on the other side of a door, as they had the entire episode. And Philip had agreed at the time, but now that he's starting to realize that she might be involved in some of the Gaia memory production, he's backpedaling a little bit, and he says that maybe they should just talk over the phone for now.
Yeah, he straight up asks her, do you have a Gaia memory? And she says no, and that lack of trust is honestly part of why he's, kind of cools down their whole deal. and she drops her guy memory to the ground, kind of deciding that she's not going to use this anymore, and walks off.
Now, I gotta say, like, I appreciate she's trying not to be a supervillain, but if she does have superpowered stalkers coming after her on the regular, maybe she should hold on to that.
You're not totally wrong, but like it's guy memories are pretty bad stuff.
But, like, they already got rid of the number one gun seller in town, like the true hero that the city deserved, who was protecting the civilians by selling them actual weaponry that could protect them from the Gaia memories.
So she should have dropped the guy memory, but then strapped on a couple of pistols.
Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying.
I guess that tracks. So that was Kamen Rider episodes 13 and 14.
I actually quite enjoyed these.
Yeah, like this is a good arc.
We are on to the questions. And so, for my plot question, early on in episode 13, Princess Wakata, she's on the radio, she's just kind of doing some small talk banter, and she asks the very pointed question, why are there so many monsters in this city anyway? And so my plot relevant question is, what the fuck is a normal level of monsters in a given Japanese city, at least in this universe?
Well, I mean, it's a tokusatsu universe, so I think it's like, you know, there's lots of cities where it's normal, but then every so often there's an Angel Grove where it's like, oh man, they about once a week they got a giant monster that shows up and they got to deal with.
So is this Kamen Rider W like in the same universe as a number of other Kamen Rider shows? Like, can we assume that if we drive down the freeway in this particular Kamen Rider, we will come across other towns with other Kamen Riders fighting completely separate monsters on completely separate global domination schemes?
The answer to that is no, except for when the answer is yes. Like, the Kamen Rider shows, they're treated as kind of their own universe where they're dealing with their own thing, but then there's, crossover movies and specials and stuff like that that just happen.
I see. So the answer is no, except when the answer is yes. In this particular town, the monsters come from the Gaia Memories, which is funded by the evil family, selling them to just randos on the street and not keeping great records in the process. And then down the highway a little bit, we'll come into the, Kamen Rider O's, where the monsters come from coins that get embedded in their heads, it's been a while, I forget that one. And then if we keep on going, we'll hit that high school that's full of monsters and like a space program.
There's got to be somebody who's very unlucky who keeps moving to avoid these monsters, but then he finds this new city is the one where everything is going down.
It would be very interesting and very dangerous to be a long haul trucker in this universe, just going from town to town on long stretches of highway. Like, okay, when you get to this town, this is the type of monster you got to look out for. When you get to this other town, it's a completely different threat vector.
The most dangerous occupation is someone who works in a rock quarry, because oh my god, that's the breeding ground.
A rock quarry and just general construction worker on like sports stadiums or other event halls.
I'm an inspector for abandoned warehouses. Hello.
Yes, I'm new. Yes, my predecessor died last week.
Yeah, he was choked by an insect monster and implanted 12 eggs in him, and then he spawned something that was trying to take over all of humanity. So here's my question. Wakanda is a very competent and very popular broadcaster. So radio, I mean, it's kind of a thing, but I feel like these days it's pretty much mostly just a thing for crazy right-wing people to scream on weird satellite stations. So let's go with podcasters. What podcasts do you like? We're doing a podcast largely because we like podcasts. So here's a bit for us to talk about some of the podcasts we like and which of the hosts we think might secretly be evil supervillains.
Starting from the top of my list at 99% invisible, I gotta assume Roman Mars is a supervillain. Or he would be a supervillain. He would be a very Lex Luthor type, just sitting back in his leather chair, stroking a cat, talking about the minutiae of a building and the architectural design, while plotting the downfall of Western civilization. So that's an easy one. Harry, what about you?
Did you know that the bank in New York was made with a type of concrete that dissolves when certain vibrations, hit it, and then he fires a sound gun at the bank and it all explodes?
What about Adam from Adam Ruins Everything? I mean, it's right there in his name. He ruins everything.
It's pretty obvious. It's like the Riddler. or you know, the Ruiner. Is again, it's the same type of thing. He knows all the structural weaknesses and all the things like, hey, this whole legal system is messed up, or this part of the city or this company is super badly designed.
Hmm. He would just get angrier and angrier at all the flaws in the society, and he would lash out eventually. Try and bring down the banks, try and bring down Big Prison, try and bring down the water industry. What are some of the other episodes he's done? Oh god.
Let's see. I listen to a whole bunch of rewatch podcasts and cultural things like that, so that might be kind of people who will get super obsessed with old shows, and it's like the villains who, start reenacting stuff like that weird child actor for the Batman the Animated Series, and she started redoing the show except it was murdering people.
Hmm.
Lots of weird themed villains, like people who are rewatching Sailor Moon and then they're they're doing weird Sailor Moon themed crimes, which is, I guess, starting ice cream shops that are very popular with teenagers, but secretly sucking the life out of them.
What about the hosts from the various Bachelor podcasts I listened to, the Ben and Ashley I Almost Famous podcast, or the Help I Suck at Dating podcast with Jared, Vanessa, and Dean? Do you think any of them would qualify as supervillains?
I mean, weren't they Bachelor contestants?
They were definitely Bachelor contestants.
Well, there you go.
Oh, okay. Asked and answered.
Oh god, what about Dan Carlin, the hardcore history guy?
Now, the hardcore history guy, I could see him potentially as a calculator supervillain, but really,
no, enough calculator supervillains. What if he put out an episode tomorrow? Let me tell you about the Peloponnesian Wars. A lot of people don't understand it, but I do because I've lived since then. I'm a mortal. I'm a warlord. I'm going to take over the earth. and then you just hear horses running outside.
This is Vandal Savage's hardcore history.
Oh, I would listen to that. I would listen to that so much.
I would listen to the fuck out of that. That is the most amazing podcast idea ever.
I feel like this has turned to just what supervillains do we want to listen to podcasts of. And is the answer all of them?
Most of them. I would definitely listen to a Vandal Savage podcast. I would probably listen to a Riddler podcast, to be honest. Just a nice brain exercise podcast.
I feel like, oddly, the Joker would have a really sad and boring podcast.
It would just be trying too hard.
His microphone would be properly set, and there would be bad audio. It'd just be him yelling at his friends. It'd be one of those podcasts where there's 2 subscribers, like us.
Like us, yay! What are our numbers up to lately, Harry?
It seems pretty consistent that there's 2 people listening.
We love both of you.
You're our 2 favorite listeners.
All right. So let's talk about the future of the podcast and what other shows you're going to make me watch.
All right. So possibly as soon as you see this on your feed, we're also going to be putting out a kind of commentary track, live watch reaction thing of the movie we said that we were going to do today. Kamen Rider X Kamen Rider Double and Decade Movie Wars 2010. Then after that, we're going to start, hopefully, the main episodes, unless we just want to keep doing commentary tracks because Simon's lazy. We're going to be doing additional Tokusatsu content. And I put it to Sam, and he said that you wanted to do something more adult, right? Kind of on the darker side of things?
Yeah, we're doing kind of a younger focused Kamen Rider right now, so I was thinking just a more kind of adult themed non-Kamen Rider, just to kind of show a little bit of the breadth of Tokusatsu properties that are out there.
All right, so I have 2 options. I think.
God, it's already down to 2.
Well, I thought about it. There's not a huge amount of adult Tokusatsu media. I mean, it is largely aimed at children, and I was also trying to stick to live action, although there is the option to do anime, because there's definitely some anime that's basically this, except the special effects are a lot better.
Isn't all anime basically this?
No, I mean there's slice of life anime and stuff like that. Anime is just a specific style of cartoon.
Yeah, but maybe we should leave that to the Oops All Anime and any of the other hundreds and hundreds of anime podcasts out there.
You listen to Oops All Anime?
No, I listened to the Garnet Wager, and they keep talking about Oops All Anime.
I think I might subscribe to the Patreon and listen to it. I certainly like their Genius coverage. Anyways, later. The two kind of ones I want to put to you right now, although I may kind of expand with other options if you don't like either of them, are Kamen Rider Nexus and Garo, the One Who Shines in the Darkness.
Well, of those two properties, meeting the criteria of an adult-focused non-common writer, it sounds like one of them might be a common writer.
Wait, what did I say? Did I misspeak?
Did you say Common Writer Nexus?
Oh, okay. That was a slip of the tongue. I meant Ultraman Nexus.
Oh, yes, that sounds very different than Common Writer Nexus.
Yeah, if I wanted to just do like an adult-ass Kamen Rider, I would do Kamen Rider Amazons, which is the bloody one that they put on the internet. But we're doing a Kamen Rider right now, so we'll stick to something else. No. So, start with Garo, the One Who Shines in the Darkness. You've already seen season 1 of Garo.
Yes.
So you know what it is. It's like an adult kind of action-y show. Live action, lots of martial arts stuff. It's fantasy with lots of blood and nudity because they could get it in because of the time slot. Mm-hmm. Stuff like that. And this one, and so you also saw about half of the next season. So just to keep things kind of interesting and going, I've decided to skip next to the next season, which a lot of people actually didn't like. They thought that the One Who Shines in the Darkness is one of the weaker Garo series. I genuinely liked this one. I also liked the seasons that people seem to like, and there was a sequel series to this, Gold Storm, that was super bad. I dropped after a couple episodes. But this one, I feel like actually does some interesting stuff it's kind of made by a different team than the rest of Garo, different actors. It's a bit like the Tokyo Drift in that it takes place at a point along the future of all the other series, and they're kind of catching up to it with various plot developments.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah. That sounds good. That kind of sounds like it sounds very different than what we're watching right now, and it would be a wonderful complement to going along with Kamen Rider W, and then Kamen Rider Decade going backwards.
Yes, every episode shot in reverse.
Yes.
The other option is Ultraman Nexus, which is it's part of the Ultraman series, which is very much usually part of the whole kids show stuff. It is very heavily slanted that way. It is, fighting monsters. It's also kaiju, giant monsters. It's, Godzilla size stuff. But Ultraman Nexus is a series that is a lot darker. And in fact, it was so dark that a lot of people liked it. It was really popular with certain people, but it was on the wrong time slot, so its ratings were really bad. And it kind of ended up it's like a flawed series because it ended early and they kind of had to wrap up a lot of plot lines and not totally finish it. But even for what it is, a lot of people say it's one of the better Ultraman series, and it's also very dark and kind of it's tied into like the Book of Revelation and stuff like that, and weirdly religious in some of its theming. And yeah, it's an Ultraman series, which is definitely something we should cover in Toku. But this is very different from everything else you'd see there. And I have only seen actually the first couple episodes of this, so it'd be a bit more of an exploration. Although I know generally the plot things that happens at the end, but just at the extent of like, I don't know the names of a couple villains.
I mean, both sound interesting. I quite liked Garo when I was watching it. So I guess I'm leaning Garo.
Yeah, and also I think that would a point towards Garo is that it's a little bit shorter, so that we could start cycling a bit faster.
Okay, so let's do that one.
Okay, so next on the feed is going to be the live track for the movie, but then after that, we'll still be covering Kamen Rider Double, but then we'll also be covering 1 or 2 episodes of the third Garo series, Garo, the One Who Shines in the Darkness.
Yay!
I mean, there's like 3 different shows now, and I'm not sure which one to use for my sign-off. Let me think. What's 15 and 16? Oh yeah, that's the one with the weapons. So, okay. Hey Sam.
Yes.
Have you heard of the villain of the city who was called Kamen Rider?
I believe I have.
Yeah. He's a deadbeat dad too. Like I'm sure that God that kid is that kid is gonna have a bad day for the next episode.